Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of Basketball, Body, and Mind. Today, we will talk about something that most of athletes don't talk about, but I believe every single experiences is the pressure you put or we put on ourselves when nobody else is demanding that. So picture this. It is the night before a game. Nobody has told you that you have to play perfectly. Your coach hasn't said anything that you have to score 20 points. Your parents have not said that your future depends on this game and we will love you only if you will play good. But you're laying in your bed and thinking, I have to play well. I have to prove myself. I have to be perfect. If I don't, I'm not good enough. Where does that come from? Nobody said that to you, but you did. You are putting all that pressure on yourself, and we all know how usually it plays out when you are putting that much of the pressure. And you just finished the game, you scored 18 points, you had 6 assists, your team won by 12. Coach says, great game. Your teammates are happy, but you are sitting in the locker room checking the stats and you remember everything, but you say in your head, I missed those 3 free throws. I had 2 turnovers. I should have had 20 points. I could have been better. That's not good enough. So you can't enjoy the win because you are focusing on imperfections. You can't accept the compliment because you know all the mistakes you made. And that is definitely exhausting. That is draining your energy. So let's talk today about that invisible pressure, the pressure that you create for yourself, and about perfectionism, which is, by Tony Robbins' words, I quote him, that perfection is the lowest standard you can have for yourself. I'm glad you asked why. And why is that? Because perfect doesn't exist. So that standard doesn't exist. And we will talk about why you might be doing this to yourself, why it's making you worse, and what can you do differently, let's say this way, without crushing yourself. So that invisible pressure is the self-imposed pressure, the one that you create by yourself. And it might come from your own expectations. It might come from your desire to be perfect, or from your internal beliefs that things that you should is like on quotes, should achieve, should do, have to. No one else is demanding that, but you feel the pressure of doing that. And it can come from different things. Like perfection is the belief that anything below perfect is failure. So one mistake, one missed shot, it's a failure. So if you want to try to I'm using word try to prove someone that you are, that you belong on the court, that you belong on the team. Maybe you want to prove the doubters that they are wrong. Maybe you want to prove that you are as good as someone else and that you attach your identity to that. So meaning if your self-worth is tied to your performance, if you have a good game and you feel that you are a good person, and if you had bad game, you're a bad person, it will be super difficult for you to perform well. But all of this unhealthy pressure that you create to yourself, healthy motivation would be reframing it. So instead of I have to play well, like you say, I want to play well. I'm going to give my best effort. I'm excited to compete and I am working towards my goals. And as I said, unhealthy would be something like I have to be perfect. I can't make mistakes. If I don't perform well, I'm worthless. I'm letting down everyone because I'm not playing well. So the healthy motivation will move you forward. Like, just listen how different it sounds. I want to play well. I'm going to give my best effort. I'm excited to compete compared to I have to be perfect. I can't make mistakes. If I don't perform well, I'm worthless, right? It sounds very different. Research even shows that perfectionism is linked to increased anxiety, depression, and decreased performance. So perfectionists will experience more often the anxiety about performance. They will enjoy the game of basketball less than the athletes with that healthy motivation or healthy way of looking into the game. Because as I said, perfection, if your standard is perfection, is 100% that you will fail. And 100% of the times you will fail. Because you cannot have the perfect game. You will make bad decisions. You will have the turnover. You will miss one shot. And even if you made all shots, you had zero turnovers, you will be looking at the game and you think, actually, I could have done better in that situation. So when we are talking about Kobe Bryant, rest in peace, definitely one of the best, definitely the GOAT, you know, and besides all the greatness, I mean, he was famous for his relentless pursuit of perfection. In Kobe Bryant's world, there was no such word of good enough. He was always chasing the perfection, the excellence, and even though he knew that he probably will never catch it, he was still striving for that. And in his book, he said that greatness is not for everyone. So, yes, his work ethics was legendary. His dedication to the basketball is like unmatched. But it comes with a price. And I really believe, I do not know him, I didn't know him personally, but it definitely, that perfectionism had cost. Of course, he became the best player possible, the best player that he could become. But that, and it made him great, but that perfectionism is double-edged sword. You can pursue for that excellent, I believe, without being perfect. And you can have a high standards without demanding perfectionism from yourself. And I believe that you can work super hard and be super tough on yourself. But when time comes, you give yourself grace. And let me tell you a story about Steph Curry. And he has talked about dealing with the daily pressure. And I talked a little bit about that in the social media and the daily pressure of him living up to the expectations. Even with his all success, he still feels the pressure and self-doubt. He admitted experiencing the imposter syndrome is the feeling that he is not as good as people think he is. So there is like another coach has once told, he said, what is it like to work in NFL? And he said, the same problems, but different office. So if you are dealing with those issues right now and you think you think that others are not dealing with them at a higher level, trust me, everyone is dealing with these same issues and you have to find a way to work on that and You will need to work on that always. So coming back to the story that I told you about those 18 points. So let's talk a little bit more specific about that, and let's call him Stan. Stan was perfectionist, and he had incredibly high standards for himself. He would practice for hours, watch films, obsessively analyze every mistake that he made. And on paper, that sounds really good. That sounds like a real dedication. But what if it was destroying him? He had a great game, as I said, 18 points, 8 rebounds, team won, but he was miserable because he missed those free throws. He could not enjoy the success because he was always focused on what went wrong. He couldn't accept compliments because he knew all his flaws, all the mistakes that he did. His teammates would tell him, great game, Stan. And Stan would respond, yeah, but I missed those free throws. And he could not just say thank you and believe it. And the pressure was making him to play worse. He was afraid of making mistakes, of missing shots, and that he would hesitate to shoot when open. He would overthink the decisions that he make on the court, and he was in his head rather than in the game. Coach had a conversation about it and asked him, if your best friend came to you after the game and said, I scored 20 points, but I'm disappointed because I missed those free throws, what would you tell him? Stan would tell, I would tell him he is being too hard on himself, and I would say to him, ease up and enjoy more. You're playing basketball. It's a fun game. And you know what's coming next. Coach said, so why aren't you giving that same answer to yourself? Give yourself compassion. So, what do you do about this? I'll give you some advices that I believe could work. First, you need to recognize the differences between, as we talked, I have to and I want to, or I choose to. Every time you catch yourself saying, I have to, reframe it. I have to play well becomes I want to play well. I have to prove myself becomes I choose to compete. That small shift will take that pressure away and will bring back the motivation. So you will not be kind of forced to play. You are choosing to play. You are choosing to compete with the other players. Second is the reality check. I think this is very, very important. So check your expectations. Are they realistic for where you are right now in your development? And I see it very often when I see people doing shots. They make, let's say, 5 in a row or like 10 in a row, and they miss one and they get mad. I'm like, bro, you just made 10 in a row and you missed one and you focusing on that one. So are you expecting yourself to perform like someone who has played basketball for, I don't know, 20 years? And has spent like 15 million and has made 15 million shots? Or would you expect from someone who is like year 5 to play like someone who's year 20 playing in the EuroLeague? Write down your current expectations for yourself and then ask, would I demand this of someone who is in my position, who is in my condition, who is playing the basketball the way I play? If the answer is no, why would you demand that from yourself? Give yourself some compassion. Third, practice listing your success, your wins, before you start paying attention to the mistakes and turnovers. So I challenge you this. After the game, before you look into the negative things that you did, write down or tell yourself in mind 3 things that you did well. Okay? So that's how you will start to program your brain to scan not for mistakes, but for positive things. And it will help you with that motivation. I'm not saying ignore your turnovers and ignore your mistakes, but focusing on them, we need to change that. Okay, so then 4th, adopt the mantra that maybe my best effort is good enough. Like being excellent is good enough. We don't have to be perfect. And if you gave your best effort, but you scored 0, maybe you didn't get any rebounds, but really that game, it was your best effort, but you lost, your team lost. I mean, I would still be satisfied if I knew that I did everything I could. If I knew that that day it was my all my effort was on the court. You can work to improve tomorrow, but today, that effort was your best effort that you can give. 5th, separate your worth. This is super important. So separate your worth from your performance. You are not your stats. You are not your wins or losses. You are not your mistakes or points scored. Your worth as a person is not determined by your ability to play basketball. Basketball is only what you chose to do, but is not who you are. It's maybe super big part of you, but you cannot attach your self-worth to the way you play. Okay? It's essential. If your worth is conditional and if your worth is depending on your performance, meaning the better you play, the better person you are one bad game away from feeling worthless. We don't want that. Maybe, we can attach a little bit of our identity to the way we act on the court, to something that we can control, to something that we are able to influence, to the hard work, but not to the stats. Okay? And finally, ask yourself, what's the worst that can actually happen if I'm not perfect? Let's say you missed, again, 3 free throws. You turned the ball over. You get scored on. You got dunked on. What actually happens? Coach might be frustrated for 10 seconds. Your teammate might be annoyed for 5 seconds. Maybe the bench of the opponents would be super happy and pointing fingers for 15 or 30 seconds. Maybe you will feel embarrassed for a minute. But then everyone moves on. The game continues. Life goes on. But in your head, it feels catastrophic. That's the perfectionism that is lying to you. Because the real consequences of that thing that happened are way smaller that your brain is telling to you. You make it a huge deal, but actually it is so small. It's very small. So, okay, I got emotional. Let's bring it home. So that invisible pressure and perfectionism are exhausting you. They are robbing the energy from you, and that you are constantly crushing yourself with the expectations of performing so good, but nobody's putting that standard on you. It's you who are imposing that standard on yourself. So the challenge I have for this week for you, after the next game, list those 3 things you did well before you analyze what went wrong. Force yourself to see success first. And every time you catch yourself saying, I have to, reframe to, I want to, or I choose to. You don't have to be perfect. You just have to show up consistently and do your best consistently. That is enough, and you are enough. Thank you for listening. Share this episode with your teammate, and as always, keep training basketball, body, and mind.